A lot of games nowadays seem to be getting more and more film-like, and this got me thinking, do games need to have a balance between gameplay and films, or is it acceptable for them to be interactive media or interactive films? And I'm more talking specifically about the game Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls, because I love these games. They are fantastic, and I do call them games. However, I recently had a big chat with Cena about whether or not these are games, and we came to the conclusion that they are, because my definition of a game is anything that's got more than 50% gameplay, and
Depends
the
what
other
you class as gameplay.
But it does depend on what you class as gameplay. Now, we agreed that based on my definition of the broad sense of 50% gameplay, that Beyond Two Souls and Heavy Rain are in fact games. However, when you look at them and you actually think about it, how much of it do you have control over? Because that's pretty much what defines a game. It's not how much are you involved in, because you can be involved in a movie if you get really into it. It's how much do you have control or input in. Mm-hmm. Now, this doesn't mean that the game has to differentiate between your actions. Like, you can go and play a scripted story game that you have control over if you wish. And this is where Heavy Rain is probably the absolute borderline, because it's got the gameplay in it, you do have control, you do make decisions, and it does have an impact, and you do have to do a lot of it, and a lot of it is actually telling the story as you're playing it. Some of it is cutscenes, but most of it is like an interactive cutscene, but you are in control. Beyond Two Souls, in contrast, is almost 50-50 between control and cutscene, and a lot of it is interactive cutscenes, or kind of cutscenes that you can't skip, or walking between this, that and the other, or connectors, and it basically becomes a kind of well, is it a game, is it not a game, is it a game, is it not a game? And actually, when you get to the point where you're umming and ahhing over whether it's a game, it's not a game. It's an interactive drama. And I think this is where Heavy Rain's been a bit of a badly marketed game, because Heavy Rain is a game, right? It's not an interactive drama, as it says on the back of the box, because there is more gameplay in it than there is anything else. There is a lot of emotion in it, there is a lot of storytelling in it, but that doesn't mean that it's not a game, and that it's suddenly a movie. Beyond Two Souls, on the other hand, is more like an interactive movie than a game, simply because of the ratio of which you have control over.
Now, the importance of gameplay. Now, I know. First of all, let me get this straight. There's going to be a lot of people that just say, "Why does it matter what you class it as? Whether it's a game?" There's going to be people like David Cage who say, "Who has the right to define what a game is? Nobody has the right to say this is a game, this is not a game. Why do I not make films? Because I like to make games." And I'm just thinking, well, you've got to understand, when someone chooses to play a game over watching a film, there's a reason why. When I've chosen a game, I expect certain things from a game. It's like when I go and watch a movie, I don't expect the movie to say, press X to continue playing the film. It's like, well, the hell, I paid, right, to sit here for 2 hours with my popcorn to watch a film. I want a passive experience. Gaming is not a passive experience. Gaming is about involving the player. It's about having that active experience. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean, you've got to be pressing buttons every second. It doesn't mean it has to be a Guitar Hero game. What it means is that I have to have a significant enough involvement such that I don't feel like it's a passive experience. I don't feel like I'm literally sat back just doing nothing, which is what I think a lot of these games, which I wouldn't really class as games, do. And that kind of really defeats what I would say is the definition of a game. If you've not got the actual player involvement in terms of it's not just the decision making. For example, do you make decisions in a scripted shooter? No, you don't. Are you in control? Are you doing the inputs?
Are you progressing? Are you actually making the game flow, or is the game flowing itself?
Exactly. That's the key thing here. It's about, for example, I would say the Stanley Parable. Is that a game? I'd say it is, because you're in control all the time, right? You can choose where you have complete control. You are in the game, the game's mechanics. There is 4 buttons. There is forward, backward, left, right, and then there's like open door. That's it, right? It can be very simple, but the point is you have control over it. Okay, yes, you may not be able to, I don't know, fly out of the map or whatever, but it's still a game in that sense. It's an exploration game, right? But if you're literally watching a movie, if you're literally playing a story-heavy game, and you're being prompted every so often to press square as a QTE, it's not really a game, to be honest, because you don't have the involvement. The game is playing itself out and occasionally asking you to say, are you still with me, or are you just sat back with your controller pretending to play a game? And the reason it matters is because when you're watching a movie, you're not involved in the experience. When you're playing a game, you want to be immersed. You want to be within that kind of... You want to be there doing things. You want to feel like you made it happen. When you shoot someone in the head in a shooter, you want to feel like, yes, I pressed the trigger. I made the necessary inputs to make the action that happened on screen happen. Not the game did it for me. And I was, told that it's in an in-game engine.
There is a reason, though, when you actually talk about games and you look at films, you can have games that are maybe 8 hours long, and people say, oh, well, how can it possibly be like a movie? Because it's 8 hours long. Have you ever heard of TV series? Well, they're kind of 8 hours long, and they're kind of like a film, but it's just longer because they want to show more. And that's kind of where some of these video games seem to be going. They're not films anymore. They're just like long TV series. And the actual problem is that when you insert the disc into your games console or PC, you expect that you've paid 40 quid or $60 for a game, right? If you go and buy a TV box set or whatever, you're likely to pay less. You'll probably pay maybe 15 to 20 quid, which is half that of what you pay for the game. So there's obviously a certain level of expectation that you should get that level of content. You'd be expecting maybe like 16 to 20 hours for a TV series to be like anywhere near $40 to $60, and then even at that, it's a push, would they ever actually cost that much? And this is where it's kind of like basically what you're doing if you're selling as one of these very, very heavy non-gameplay focused games, is that it's
Walking Dead.
Like The Walking Dead, for example. That is an episodic 10-hour game realistically for most people.
But it's...
And you are... Yeah, okay, you do have control of some parts, but realistically, you're looking at a 50-50 or maybe a 60-40, and that really is pushing the boundaries between how much of you are you watching as an interactive film and how much of it are you just pressing forward and X occasionally to actually make the game go. Now, that you're looking at paying 15 quid for, which is the same as a box set. That game is acceptable because they're actually charging the amount that you'd expect for a TV series of that length. Whereas games that are charging like 40 quid and are doing these 10-hour long things are just taking the piss.
Well, my issue is, The Walking Dead is very highly rated, isn't it? It is very highly rated. So
Got 80.
they got in the 90s, didn't it?
The Walking Dead Series 2 got about 87 approximately.
The thing is, it's in the greens, right? It's in the
way in the greens.
Way in the greens, right? And my problem is, okay, this is if I'm there and I'm thinking, what's a highly rated game that I should play? The Walking Dead, the game, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, fabulous. This is going to be like an excellent zombie game based off the TV series. I know nothing about the TV series. I know nothing about the game. And I'm just a gamer. I want a game. And I just think, well, The Walking Dead is going to have zombies in it. It's going to be a zombie game. And it's got 95. Let's go and buy it. Expecting some kind of Left 4 Dead 3.5 masterpiece. I don't know, whatever. And then I just find that it's just basically a TV series. And I'm like, when did it occur to these reviewers to actually give more weight to the gameplay? Because when you watch, say... I personally find it ridiculous every time I go and watch a review by IGN or something, and they have these sections of presentation, story, and then they've got a separate section for gameplay, and I'm like, surely that's the entire game, right? Surely you should not have a section for gameplay. Surely you should be saying gameplay is the entire... You should be focusing everything around that.
Now, I will say at this point that I have played The Walking Dead and I do highly enjoy it, and I give it a 7 out of 10. But I do not give it a 7 out of 10 as a game. I give it a 7 out of 10 as a piece of interactive drama that entertained me for 10 hours. It is not, however, a game.
So you wouldn't
now,
say it's something you'd give out to anyone?
I'm not one of these people who will go and... I'm not a big definitions guy. I really am not. And I'm one of these people who go and play extremely story-heavy games, and I love them. However, there is a point where they need to be labelled correctly, otherwise they are deceiving people.
Yeah.
And that's not a good thing, because you might go and play The Walking Dead as I did, thinking that it would be more like an actual zombie game, and yet it's actually just a cartoon recreation of the comic books, which is fine, but it's more like it is an interactive drama. It is not a game, and therefore it needs to be actually treated in that way. And that's where I'm constantly on about. The pricing has to be equal to the amount of entertainment that it gives you. We're not kind of like, oh, the definition has to be like absolutely precise, otherwise we're gonna be like grammar Nazis. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is that whatever entertainment you want to give us in whatever form, first and foremost, tell us what it is, and then price it to what it is. So if you're giving us 10 hours of entertainment, price it as such. If you're giving us 20 hours of entertainment, price it as such. And this is where, like, I think The Walking Dead is an acceptable way of doing it, but it's not a game. It is an interactive TV series or comic book, and that's absolutely fine. And I give it 7 out of 10 for that, but not as a game.
Yeah, and that's really the conclusion here. It's what I look out for is, can I give this game a genre, right? That's what I look out for. For example, if I'm playing
interactive drama does not class as a genre.
No. If I'm like, I don't know, if I go and think, oh, The Walking Dead, that got highly rated and it's a game and it's got zombies in it, surely it's going to be like, I don't know, a shooter, right? Is it a shooter? No. So, I think genre classification, yeah, I know there's a lot of cross-genre. I mean, I don't play RPGs, but I would class Far Cry 3 as like semi-RPG-ish. I'd class Saints Row 4 as having RPG elements, etc. And this is where I think games need to have kind of tags attached to them. I don't know, Like, on Steam, where you've got Steam tags, etc. I think they're a really good idea. And I think they are becoming much more increasing in value in order to help people make better decisions as to what kind of experience they're after.